Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So, the state of Wisconsin has a very important statewide election that is going to be coming up in April. We have not had a statewide election ever since the Georgia Senate runoff election back in December. However, in just around 4 weeks or so from now, we are going to have a primary for a very consequential state Supreme Court election, which will be taking place on Tuesday, April 4th of this year, where the balance of power in the Wisconsin Supreme Court is at risk because one term is indeed ending of Justice Patience D. Roggensack. Very interesting name there, to say the very least. So we're going to dive into the importance of this. The implications of it are conservatives, because technically it's not done by party. Are the conservative candidates going to be able to hold that seat, which is very important for them to do so, to hold that majority? We're about to find out. But first, I have to tell you guys about redeaglepolitics.com, because you guys can join and get my exclusive videos for just 16 cents a day or $5 a month. You get access to the Discord server. I put a video up there today about Ron DeSantis giving his opinion on the RNC race that's coming up tomorrow. What exactly does that mean? You can find out on the website. We also have the blog posts as well as the Discord server for you guys to join as well. But furthermore, this is important. You have a justice with a very unusual name who has been a staunch conservative, arguably the most conservative justice on that state Supreme Court, who is old, born in 1940, age of 82. She is now retiring. Her term is over, and there is a wide open field that is ready to potentially take that seat. And you have two candidates that are running on the conservative side of things. You also have two candidates who are running on the liberal side of things. Now, they go into this primary process. They're going to have four candidates that are going to be in this primary, and we're about to see what's going to happen. But the top two who advance in the primary do get to advance to the general election. And you have two conservative candidates and you have two liberal candidates. It is very possible, I'm not saying it's probable, but it is technically possible that you could have a conservative versus a conservative. One of those conservatives is probably going to be weaker than the other. And then you're going to have a liberal versus another liberal. One of them is going to likely be a little bit farther left than the other one as well. So it's going to be very important to really understand what is going to happen here. Now, it's very interesting because you have two candidates on the conservative side. Which one should conservatives prefer? I'm sure a lot of people are going to be wondering. You have Daniel Kelly, who is a former state Supreme Court justice who has already served on the court. However, you also have Jennifer Darrow, who is running and is a conservative and has the endorsement of Patience D. Roggensack, the current justice who is going to retire. However, it's important to understand the fact that there's questions about what she's believed in the past about these cash bail policies, and has actually even called for its elimination. As a conservative, she's trying to backtrack on it. That definitely could end up hurting her in this primary from what we're seeing. Now, Daniel Kelly is somebody who has also ran before. He has lost statewide. However, I don't know if that is the best argument to use against him, because it was not really a fair fight. And you look at the primary election that took place, there were around 700,000 voters statewide, and they overwhelmingly backed him, and he crossed the threshold of a majority. He got 50% plus one. If, they didn't do runoffs or whatever, he would have been the justice, and he was the incumbent. He's been elected before. And they had the general election on the same day as the Democratic primary for the state, where Biden was running up against Bernie Sanders. They debated before Wisconsin. Keep in mind that Bernie strategically dropped out of the presidential race after Wisconsin, just so Democrat turnout would be boosted a ridiculous amount, to the point where Daniel Kelly would have lost. And that's exactly what happened. He ended up losing by 10.5 points or so to Jill Karofsky. And this is true But at the end of the day, it's important to really understand that it wasn't a fair fight. So I don't know if you could say, oh, Kelly already lost, so he should not be nominated, when it's very evident that he was going up against a very, very unfavorable electorate to him, and it probably should not have been held on the same day. And I will say that. And of course, you had a lot of people back in the day on the left that were celebrating this, despite the fact that it's like, okay, probably around 60% of the people that voted that day were Democrats. So I don't know if that really is an argument to be used against Daniel Kelly, but it's very interesting. You have the majority leader of the Wisconsin Senate that is backing Doro. Is it possible that you look into Doro's past and the whole cash bail thing? Was it a gaffe, or is she actually calling for its elimination as a conservative? That's very interesting there. She does have the endorsement of the justice that is outgoing, but at the same time, what does that exactly mean? And then you have Daniel Kelly. So it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen there. On the Democrat side, you have Everett Mitchell, Janet Prostatsowitz, or whatever, both seem to have an even amount of endorsements there. Mitchell has the endorsement of the former governor before Scott Walker, an endorsement of a former Supreme Court justice. Rebecca Dowlett, one of the staunch liberals on the court, has endorsed Janet Prostatsowitz. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But looking at fundraising, which also does matter quite a bit, especially in a race like this where most people are just normies that don't have like an opinion on either candidate either way. You look at this and it seems like Kelly and Doro are spending quite a bit of money. Yeah, I guess you would say about even. Mitchell isn't really spending much at all, but then the Democrats are kind of coalescing behind Janet Prostatsowitz, or however you pronounce her name. So either way, it is important to understand the fact that you're likely going to have Janet Prostatsowitz, or however you pronounce it, going up against either Doro or Kelly in the general election. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens from there on out. I think that this one, again, could go either way. It depends how things go in the general election. But again, you see the liberals coalescing behind one candidate mainly. You see this divide on the right. That doesn't bode too well. We saw this all over the place in 2022. Doesn't really bode too well for the general election when you have a divided primary field and you have, a divided party, and people tend to be a little bit more tribalistic within whichever faction of the party they decide to be a part of. And as a result, that definitely can impact the general election. So I don't know what's going to happen. Definitely, I think we're going to get a better view from the primary election, depending on who wins, depending on what the results are. If the candidate that is nominated, basically, or de facto nominated from either, the conservative side of things or the liberal side, because keep in mind, again, it's technically nonpartisan, although candidates do have their own positions. We'll look at the percentages there. We'll look at the results as they come in, and we'll determine it. But either way, this is a very consequential election. You talk about moving ahead to 2024, election laws, things like that, criminal justice propositions, etc. This is the Supreme Court of the state of Wisconsin. And if you are going to flip it Republican, again, that court kept Evers in check. It limited a lot of the downsides or negative aspects of his agenda from becoming implemented. They saved the state, or, at least they limited the restrictions during COVID. Now, if you see this court flip from Republican to Democrat, or basically from conservative to liberal, you are going to see a lot more liberal policies passed and upheld in the state of Wisconsin, and it's not going to end well. So this really should light a fire under conservatives to really get out there and to turn out for whichever conservative candidate ends up getting nominated at the end of the day and go from there. But it just goes to show that these little elections do matter, and you do have to pay attention to them, and they may not pop out at your eyes like a presidential election or even like the midterm elections where they had congressional seats up for grabs or Senate seats up for grabs. But either way, they do matter. And if you live in the state of Wisconsin, they do impact your life directly, arguably more so than the national elections. Every single election matters. This is what I tell people who want to get involved into politics. If you're really based, but you don't really have connections, probably not a good idea to run for Congress. Probably run for like state representative. game the system a little bit, get connections, learn how to fundraise, and then go from there without caving or compromising your values, of course, and then take it from there. Maybe you're going to run for state senate, and then you decide to go for Congress, or you decide to go for governor from there if you're able to get your name recognition up a significant amount, whatever. But either way, these little elections, these smaller, lower profile elections do matter. And this is a big one in terms of the levers of power in the state of Wisconsin between the right and the left. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Red Eagle, out.